Hi guys, welcome to Simplifying Tech and Programming. So in the previous session we checked about how we can produce the messages by using Spring Kafka. So in this session we are going to check how we can receive that same messages by using Spring Boot application and the Kafka Consumer. Okay, so Apache Kafka is a basically publisher subscriber model of a real-time messaging system, and this is the system which sends the messages between the application and server. So Apache Kafka is a software where topic can be defined and further processed with the messages. So application can connect to this system and transfer the messages onto the topic and partition in the real time. Okay, so here what we are going to check, we are going to check the right side of this diagram, where we are using Kafka listener annotations, and we are connecting to this Kafka ecosystem, and we are going to fetch the messages from particular topic. Okay, so here prerequisites are you need to install this Apache Kafka on your local machine. So we have covered that into earlier tutorials, where we have explained how we can install the Kafka. So if you are not aware, so you can visit this blog and YouTube video. You can check this installation part. So let's get started. So create the Spring Boot project from the Spring IO. So this is the URL. We are going to get the template project for the Kafka Consumer application of the Spring Boot. Okay, so go here and go to Spring Initializer. Then we need to create the project name Spring Boot Kafka Consumer. So copy this, select the maven project, Java, select the lowest version, then group as a Kafka Boot Consumer example, and then here we need to remove this. We need to add two dependencies. One is by default Spring Web, and one is like a Spring Kafka. Okay, say generate. So our project is generated. Go to folder where it is downloaded, copy this into our workspace, extract it here, copy this path and import this project into Eclipse. So let's import this maven project, existing maven project. Say next, so browse, then deselect all and select only consumer application, that is here. Let's say finish. So again it is showing some problems, same problem where it is unable to download this Spring Core 5321. So that this is higher version for my local machine, I think. So just we need to lower the version of Spring Boot. Okay, so instead of 269 we are going to use 266. Then other than that, we have to use the Spring Boot Starter Web and the Spring Kafka that I have already mentioned. So just save it. Okay, so this error is gone now. So now let's move to next thing. So in order to create the Spring Boot Consumer application, we need to follow three simple steps. One is creating the model class, where we are going to create the Pojo class. Then we have to create the service class, where we are defining the topic and we are defining the listener part of the application. And then third one is like a Kafka configuration implement. So we need to use some default Kafka consumer factory in order to connect with Kafka along with Kafka listener. So that configuration is mentioned into the Kafka configuration class. Okay, so yeah, so implement these three parts into our code. So first we are going to create the employee object or employee class. Okay, so create this employee class. Okay, so add these three variables. Okay, so generate getter setters and constructor. So go to source and generate getter setters, select all, generate. Then we need Kafka default constructor with fields. Okay, say generate, and one more, we need the toString method. Okay, that's it. So our Pojo class is created. Now go to second step. So now step number 2, so create employee service. So here we are creating a service class with the name of Kafka Consumer along with Kafka Listener, and define the endpoints for listening the messages. Okay, so create this Kafka Consumer. Okay, so copy this code. Okay, say Control Shift O in order to import the packages. So here what we are doing, so basically we are listening two types of messages. One is like a string message and one is like a JSON message. So for string message, like we are defining Kafka listener at the red Kafka listener, which the Kafka listener is nothing but a method which define the target of Kafka message listener on the specific topic, and it internally connects with the connection factory that identifies Kafka listener container factory. Okay, so this will come into the picture for like JSON messages or object messages. Okay, so so here like this topic need to be created first, and in this topic, like if publisher publish the messages, then by using this Kafka listener we can able to consume the messages by subscribing to particular topic, this topic. So this is the group ID which is responsible for like a consumer group, the like particular consumer group that consumer is like listening for. Okay, and here just we are like consuming the message and printing the message which we are consuming. Same way like in the JSON message also, like here we are subscribing to this topic along with this Kafka consumer group, and we need to provide the container factory here, which is the container factory user Kafka listener factory. So here in string message it is not required. Okay, so here just we are like a passing employee object and we are printing this employee object. Okay, so now let's create this container factory. So for this we need to create one configuration class. So go here, then Kafka configuration class implementation. So here we are adding the configurations for Kafka consumer factory and Kafka listener container factory. So let's say Control Shift O in order to import the packages. So here import this Apache Kafka string deserializer and then Spring Framework JSON deserializer in java.map. Okay, so now you can see these errors. So just we need to fix the project setup, fix this problem using same category in the file. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so now I will tell you what it is. So here like this is the Kafka configuration class, so where we are telling Kafka to use this configuration for this consumer, Kafka consumer. Okay, so first this annotation, that is @enable Kafka. So this enable Kafka listener annotation annotated endpoints that we created under like a configuration class. So it is just enabling this Kafka configuration. Okay, then @configuration. So we are defining this class as a configuration class. So inside this, like there are two configuration. One is for a string configuration and one is for JSON configuration. Okay, so I will maximize this. Okay, so we are creating two beans. Like this is the consumer factory. This is responsible for string messages, so we are giving the string like generic. So this is the consumer factory method we are creating. Inside this we need to pass some parameters. Okay, so we are calling this default Kafka consumer factory of type string and string. So we need to give some configuration. So we have created one hash map of configuration class. So we are telling Kafka that we need to use this configuration like this. We need to use this bootstrap server, means this is the local host and this is the port for where like we are connecting to like a Kafka broker wherever we have installed it. Then we have the configuration for the consumer group, that is a consumer group ID. So so this is like we need to tell Kafka that this consumer group we are using in order to consume the messages. And then we have like we need to define the key deserializer class, that is a string deserializer, and value deserializer class, that is a string deserializer. Okay, so these four types of configuration we need to tell Kafka that we are using by using this default Kafka consumer factory. And like we need to define this configuration. So we need to define another bean, that is like a concurrent Kafka container factory. This is the Kafka listener container factory. So this means like we need to create one Kafka container factory that need to be registered for our listener configuration. Okay, so this is the container Kafka factory from which we are calling this bean. Okay, so this is like a parent bean from where like we are calling this configuration, this consumer factory method we are calling inside that. Okay, so this is the main factory class, you can say, and inside that we are calling this consumer factory. Okay, so we are creating this new factory, and we are setting this factory as a consumer factory. Okay, so this is the configuration for string messages, and for JSON messages like same structure is there. So here like we are creating one consumer factory, and we are defining default Kafka consumer factory with the employee object. So here instead of string we are passing this employee object, and here we need to define some configuration in order to connect with Kafka. And we need to tell Kafka that we are expecting this type of deserializer class, that is a JSON deserializer. So same way, like this is the bootstrap server where we are connecting to Kafka. This is the consumer group, and this is the key deserializer, that is in string. So this is in string, and value deserializer which is in employee object. So this is the JSON deserializer. Okay, so we are expecting this message into JSON message. And same way we need to call this consumer factory inside the concurrent Kafka listener container factory. So in short, like this is a container factory from where we are calling this user consumer factory. Okay, so this is the like a wrapper for this user consumer factory. Okay, so now our our Kafka implementation classes are done. So now let's go to running the application. Okay, so we need to run the Kafka zookeeper, then run the Kafka server and listen the messages from the new topic. So let's go to Kafka home directory and let's start this Kafka. So this is my home directory, so go to cmd. So for running the Kafka we need to like start this file zookeeper. First we need to start the zookeeper, so we need to use this file zookeeper server start.bat, and we need to provide this configuration for this zookeeper. So let's copy this and just paste it and just hit enter. Okay, so our zookeeper seems started on port 2181. This is the localhost 2181. So let's start the Kafka also. So this is like Kafka server start.bat. So we need to just start this bat file along with this configuration for Kafka. So let's go to Kafka home directory, type cmd, paste this command and enter. Okay, so our Kafka is started. So now let's create the topics, required topics we need to create. So let's create the Kafka topic also. So just copy this command. I will tell you what it is. Go to Kafka home directory and type cmd. So we need to create the topic. So for creating the topic, just we need to use this Kafka topics.bat file, and then we need to use this create command, and we need to provide this bootstrap server name and replication factor as a 1 by default and partition as a 1. So we need to create this Kafka topic JSON consumer. So like as mentioned, like we need to create two Kafka topics. One is Kafka topic string and one is Kafka topic JSON consumer. So this we are creating now. So this is created, Kafka topic JSON consumer. So again, just we need to, okay, so this topic also created. So now just like we need to create one producer, and we need to produce some message in order to consume the messages via your Eclipse. Okay, so for this, like we need to create one producer also. So go to Kafka home directory again, type cmd. Okay, so what we are doing here, so we are running this file Kafka console producer.bat, and we are giving this Kafka broker ID localhost 9092, and we are giving the topic name. So here, so first let's start the producer for Kafka string message. Okay, so go here, Kafka string. So copy this. Okay, so now let's observe this. So I am trying to produce the messages from here. Before that, we need to start the application. Okay, so our application is started, then partition is assigned. So these two topics, it is like a partition assigned to this consumer group. Okay, so this is the group ID 1 and this is the group ID 2. Okay, so from here, like we are like just publishing some messages, like first say like hello Kafka consumer. Okay, so you got this message here, consume the string message hello Kafka consumer. Let's publish one more. Okay, simplifying tag. Okay, so you got this message like this. So now let's try to publish one JSON message. Okay, so for this we need to create one more producer for that, because we are using different consumers. So go to Kafka home directory and let's create one more producer. Just we need to change this Kafka topic. We need to provide this Kafka topic JSON consumer. Let's enter. Okay, so now we need to give some JSON message. First name colon like Johnny. Okay, then comma, we have last name also. So last name colon then again comma, then we have empid colon 1001. So this is the JSON message. We need to publish it, and then we need to check if Kafka able to consume it. So enter. That's it. So we consume the JSON message also, like this employee object, like first name Johnny, then last name this, and employee ID this. Okay, so this way, like we can publish the JSON message also. So in the conclusion, so in this article we covered the basics of Spring Boot Kafka and how we can consume the messages by using Kafka listener, and we have seen the different types of messages while consuming the messages, like string message and JSON message. So you can download the source code from the GitHub, and you can refer earlier blog for the producer example also. Yeah, so in this next session, we are exploring a few more Kafka examples, so stay tuned for that. If you like this content, then please like, share and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.